Hey fellow gamers, Chatty Sisa here. Horizon Zero Dawn, the remastered version, has been released approximately a month and a half ago, and it's not really doing so great, so I'm going to dive in the next few minutes into the details why that might be. And also, I'm sure you have seen it, there was an announcement of a new game by Tencent, which completely looks like a ripoff of Horizon Zero Dawn. So let me take a couple of minutes of your time as well to talk about this topic as well. If you're new to this channel, I just would like to point out that I have more vids which are related to Horizon or the Horizon series. You can all find them here in my channel. And while you're there roaming around the vids, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button below and you'll be notified when I'm uploading a new vid. Thank you very much and have fun watching. When I was looking into the Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered version and the articles that came out regarding it and why it's not really doing so great in the sales, I came across, for example, the article from Screen Rant, which is highlighting 10 improvements that the version has done. So they're highlighting that the improved textures are obvious right away, whether it's armor, clothes, buildings, and more. And I think it is visible also in the comparison vid, which I did also, and I will link it up here, where I could show you what is the main difference or what are the main differences. And then they mentioned there is more foliage, for example, better water physics and graphics, improved lighting, and I will stop here at this one because although I agree that it's now more differentiated, where you can see areas which are more in the shadow and areas that are more in direct sunlight, for example, it does not really contribute, for me at least, to a, let's say, better perception or visibility, because currently what I have seen on the remastered version, some areas are actually too dark. And I did appreciate the original, let's say, lighting, how it was done. And it wasn't that natural, yes, I agree, but in the end what was nice for me was that you could see a lot of the details, whether it was in the architecture or it was in the background or the surroundings. And now currently when you look at the remastered version, there are a lot of details which completely get drowned out by the areas with shadows. So I don't really think I am very fond of this one, even though they are highlighting it as number 7 on their list. They do mention also the better character models in game, and I have received also the information from one of the viewers on my channel, thank you by the way, that the motion captures were also done anew for this remastered version and that the movements are now more natural in some of the scenes. So I do believe that this is a very positive impact of the remastered version, and I think that this is something that can contribute to, let's say, a better perception of the game and a better immersion into the game. The frame rate has been increased as well, so it's 60 FPS, which is now smoother, and that contributes also to the combat, how the combat is flowing, so that's what they are highlighting here as well. The next point which they are highlighting, and I think this is a really big bonus, is that the DLC is included in the remastered version. So you don't have to buy it separately, you get the whole package all at once. And I think this is really great considering that you are only paying $10 or 10 euros for the upgrade to the remastered version. That's really awesome. So on the third spot, they are again mentioning the motion captures, which I have already mentioned previously, and they are saying that it's no longer awkward to watch the cutscenes. The cutscenes are no longer weird. I'm not sure if those have been that much awkward. I remember playing the original game and I'm now replaying it as well because I'm creating a guideline, and I don't think that they are awkward, at least they are not seeming like this to me, but I haven't had a chance to compare them with the remastered version. So in case you did, let me know what you think about the remastered version, and if this point is true, if you have the feeling that it's flowing better also in the cutscenes. There's also some DualSense controller additions to make the combat better. That's on number 2 in their list. And the firing a bow has a weight behind it now, so it should look more realistic, I would say. And also when you are working with a controller or you are using a controller, it should be better to handle the combat with the controller. And last but not least, the point number 1, which they are mentioning, is so many more NPCs to run into. I mean, the game did not feel empty at all when I was already playing it previously. You had enough people, I think, in the settlements. But I do have to agree with Meridian. Meridian felt a little bit empty in terms of I would expect there to be much more people in the streets in the Meridian directly, considering it's the capital of the Karja, considering that there are many other people living as well. For example, the Oseram, there's a lot of Oseram there, and you haven't really seen that many over there. And it did look partially, at least in some spots, like a little bit deserted. I remember coming across 1 or 2 areas which looked like they really have no purpose. And if you would make there, for example, I don't know, a fountain and have 2-3 NPCs sitting over there and talking, it would give you a much different feeling than just come across a weird corner or a space with, I don't know, just a little bit of a greenery and some palm tree and nothing else, and aside from that it was empty. So it was kind of weird, and I really appreciate if they have added more NPCs, especially into Meridian. Then yeah, it definitely will improve the overall feeling of the game, or when you venture into the capital. So in general, I think why the game is not doing so well, or why this remaster is not doing so well, is even though it does have so many positives going for it, and it is generally greatly improved, and I'm sure there were a lot of hours put into this remaster, in general, it's not something that would have been necessary. The game is not so old yet. I think it's from 2017. It's not so old. It was looking great as it was already, and there was really no need for a remaster. Most people, to be honest, I think were waiting or are still waiting for the third game in the series. They want to see how the entire series comes to a conclusion, at least Aloy's story, and they are really waiting, let's say with bated breaths, on how this is going to be resolved, especially when we consider that, for example, Lance Reddick is no longer with us, and he was instrumental in portraying Silence, who was a very important character in the entire series. So many people are wondering how the series will be concluded, and instead of that, and instead of hearing some news about the finalization of the series, we get a Lego Horizon Adventures, and even though it was done by a different team, but still. And then we get this remaster. And many are wondering why divert some workforce towards a remaster where there is no interest for it, literally to begin with. So most people didn't really want a remaster. They were not waiting for a remaster. They didn't see it as necessary. And there's no wonder that people are not really buying it. It's not that it's bad. It's actually the opposite. It's great that we have this improvement. People just don't see the need to do that, even though it's only costing $10 or 10 euros on top. If you have already bought the game previously, you are just paying 10 euros for it. But again, people are not really interested in buying something that they didn't want to buy in the first place, or that they were not expecting in the first place, right? So that's in general with most of the remasters currently that I am seeing being done. They are being done for games that definitely do not need them. And then we have older games which were very successful, which have very outdated graphics, for example, and those would really be awesome if they would get a remaster. But those are not being done, these remasters. So it's kind of a difference between what the gamers would expect and what the studios are offering. And I think that's one of the main reasons why the sales are lacking for this remastered version as well. There is a separate Steam chart related just to this remaster, and if you look at the remaster numbers, they are not really looking so great. So as of now, I can see that we had an all-time peak of players, which was 2 months ago, or basically at the time of release, 1.5 months ago, of just 2,538 people, and that's really not so great. I would have expected more people to buy the remaster, but obviously this is again just a reflection of what I mentioned previously. People didn't really see the need for this remaster, and they are not really interested in updating or upgrading the game. They rather would like to see probably the news on the third one. If you look at the charts as well, there is the mention that there are positive reviews of about 76%, which also is a little bit surprising to me because the remaster introduced a lot of improvements. As I said, maybe there are people who consider some of the items or some of the improvements not to be that great. For me, it was the shadows or the lighting. But aside from that, in general, I would say for me, the 90 or 95% of the items that have been introduced in the remaster version were positive. And I can see that many people are not seeing it that way. It's really 76% only. So yeah, that's something that's contributing as well probably to the not so great perception. And people, before they buy or before they upgrade, they're going to look at the reviews. When I was looking at the reviews, there was one that was standing out for me. I mean, it was in general a negative one, which is not recommended, but it did highlight some of the issues where I was wondering why the negative reviews are even there and why people are perceiving something as a remaster so negatively. And there have been little details mentioned in this review that make more sense now. So, for example, the reviewer here mentions a variety of NPCs have the biggest teeth I've ever seen. Some characters look great, others like Neil look like they just got horse teeth implants. So yeah, I do understand now some of the negative perception. This person is also praising the new animations and saying they are looking great. They are also mentioning that for some reason there is a lot of the characters which are glistening in the light. So I think because they were playing with this lighting, that also had an effect on the characters. And I don't really think that these changes in the lighting were a positive side, as I said, on this remaster. So this one would confirm this to me. So it's just probably because the devs were playing with the lighting and changed the lighting in the remaster. And I think the other second negative point which the person was mentioning, which was quite important, I believe, was the bugginess for the controllers. So yeah, it is a positive point as mentioned by Screen Rant, and they are highlighting that it's great that it was the DualSense controller support is there, but obviously it is quite buggy, and the person here in the review is highlighting it as well. So I do understand there are some of the little things which did not really work out that well, but in general the game is perceived quite positively, or the remaster is positively perceived, and still the people are not buying it. So yeah, as I said, I don't think that it was necessary, and the interest is simply not there. And the second topic we have is Light of Motiram. As I have mentioned, it's a game from Tencent which looks like a ripoff from Horizon Zero Dawn, and many people were outraged when they were seeing it. The description for Motiram is: in a world overrun by colossal machines, explore the vast open world, build your base of operations, advance technology, train mech-animals, and take on formidable bosses. Starting from the primitive age, forge a new path of development, defy the machination, survive with mech-animals. So they call them mech-animals. Which is quite fun. But in general, I did look at some of the reviews already, or at some of the people who were, let's say, dissecting the released vids that we have seen so far from the game. And I think the most important bit that I found was that the visual side is really like Horizon Zero Dawn. So that is true, but in general, when they were looking into the mechanics, the in-game mechanics, and some of the other trailers, it seems to be as if they will be stealing also from Terminator. So there are some scenes which look like from the Terminator movies. And then in general, people who have played Palworld have said that it does remind them a lot of Palworld. So it looks more in terms of the gameplay, more like a copy-paste of Palworld and some other MMORPGs rather than the Horizon Zero Dawn. So yeah, the visual side is completely Horizon. It's absolutely clear that they did copy that, but not necessarily the gameplay. Although on this spot, I have to say, does it matter what exactly they copied? The fact is that they did copy. And it looks like they copied multiple things, whether it's games or movies. And none of the things that they have in the game is like their own. So they just pick together some stuff from one game, some stuff from the other game, some visuals from here and some visuals from there, and some gameplay from here and some gameplay from there. And they put together a game that's not an exact copy of one single game, but a copy of a lot of them. And the question is what repercussions this will have, to be honest. We have to keep in mind Tencent is Chinese. Until now, we have seen already a few games that have been, let's say, rip-offs, which were done by Chinese companies. But those were usually smaller, so smaller games by smaller studios. And in general, the games or the developers or the studios in the West, who were the owners of the original IPs and the original material, didn't really bother to take steps against these smaller Chinese studios because in general they were not considering it to be worth it. But we are talking here about Tencent, which is huge, and Sony, which is huge as well. So we have two companies here basically against each other. The question is if they are going to do something with this one, what kind of repercussions this will have. So I do have a question mark here. I will definitely follow up on that one. I mean, so far we haven't even seen a release date. I do believe that they will release the game, and maybe they find some kind of settlement in case there should be, let's say, some legal activity from Sony's side. In the end, I think they will just find some settlement. But I'm not sure if it will be like worth it for Sony. So I'll definitely keep up with this one and have an eye on it when it comes out and see what steps will be taken. And I will then update you here as well. So that's it regarding the remastered version as well as the Tencent ripoff version for this vid. Let me know in the comment section what you think about it, and if you like this vid, please don't forget to hit that like button below as well. It will be very helpful for the YouTube algorithm. Thank you very much for watching, stay tuned and game on!